Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Tabletopped, the podcast where we talk about RPGs, we talk about running games, we talk about storytelling in general. Today is our very first episode, and we are going to start episode 1 with a session 0. This is going to be just a group of DMs/GMs talking shop about how to run a successful session 0. And why don't I get everyone to introduce themselves? And why don't we start over here with Shade?
Hi, I'm Shade. I have run a variety of systems, but right now I'm only running some 5e campaigns.
Hello, I'm Daniel. I am running a couple of 5e D&D games, and I'm about to start branching out and experimenting with other systems.
Hi, I'm Franco. I'm also running 5e games, and I also hope to branch out to other systems.
Well, you've run a few others.
Yeah, I've read a bunch of them just to plunder their ideas. And I guess I've also used like in little mini games, in between sessions, I've also tried to throw in Powered by the Apocalypse style systems and stuff like that. Back to you, Nick.
And I'm Nick. I am probably the newest DM/GM in this group. I actually started with D&D, but have basically left it ever since. Now I basically use Powered by the Apocalypse system, specifically Monster of the Week and Urban Shadows. But today, since this is sort of across all systems and stuff like that, why don't we talk about how each of us kind of approach starting a campaign from both a storytelling side and also a sort of player comfort and teaching player side, because I know that a lot of people who like to run games or are new to running games, the beginning is the hardest part, just getting everyone on the same page, getting everything started strong. So yeah, who wants to start us off with some basic ideas about how they run a session 0?
First, you want to start with a 10-page document on your entire history of your world and stuff, and you just want to get everybody apprised, and you want to start everybody off with some homework. I'm obviously kidding. Yeah, I think well, I've only had I guess I've had one session 0, but for every single one of the campaigns that I've started, it's just been the same campaign that I've started several times, and only one of the group of people has continued with that campaign. But it was basically a fairly short paragraph just to introduce the world, and then that also gives the players some free room to see okay, where does my character fit into that world?
Which actually is a pretty good start off. I think all of us run in our own homebrew worlds, which means every time we do a session 0, we've got to be like, hey, here's this world that lived in my head for the past 5 years. Figure it out where your place is going to be, and let's roll dice.
Yeah, of course, it does kind of depend. I think we've all ran a few out of the book as well. We've all certainly played out of the book for official publish and some third-party published as well. But it really does depend on whether this is a homebrew or it is something that's pre-published. If it's pre-published, that probably already has some content on how to do its session 0, but there are some good rules of thumb always. And the first thing, and this is good for all D&D sessions, whether it's session 0, session 325, communicate with each other. Just
Answer those emails, everyone.
Are you having fun? Are you still engaged? Talk.
Are you coming?
I mean, yeah, you should probably.
Can you make the meeting? Yeah,
some consent about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point on the technical side of everything, to just make sure everyone's on the same page. For me, storytelling wise, whenever I start a session 0, I try to make all of my players aware of a basic setting, like you said, Franco, and what you said, Daniel. But then I also say this is how magic works in this world, and the general feel of magic, and this is what monsters look like and how they're kind of considered by the populations, whether it's hey, people don't think monsters exist, or hey, monsters are everywhere and people are kind of over them.
And I mean, that right there is a great point. If you want to run a world where maybe things are a little different than the vanilla play sets, you need to set that forward for your players, and the players need to have a chance to go, okay, well, what about this? And you can find that kind of negotiation middle ground.
Yeah, you want to be clear with what expectations are going to be for how monsters and fantasy works, because it's not always going to be the same, and you don't want people going in to thinking they're going to be superheroes in your medieval realistic setting.
Yeah, setting expectations is very, very crucial.
And, it's an expectation for you as a DM and for the player, because at the end of the day, it's a game, and the DM needs to be having fun, or GM if you prefer, and the player needs to be having fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that something to go before session 0 is just to send out, I always try to get my players to send a basic character concept to me so that I can be like, this would gel with the world, or this will not work. You have to start again. Just because, Daniel, you and I have talked about this, but when I first started playing D&D, I was like, yeah, my whole family was killed by Valkyries, and I'm an avatar of vengeance that's coming through, and I've killed all these people, and I will find them. And you're like, okay, but you're level 1.
Yeah, you can't have done all of that.
That's an interesting that you say to have the character beforehand, because I would recommend, talking with the players about whether they already have some player concepts, because they may not, and it's useful sometimes to start with the session 0 with a blank slate, and this is where we're going to roll, this is where we're going to talk about everything, and this is a chance for you to then build your character out from that session 0, but not always.
Every time I start a session 0, I tell everyone the same thing. Just don't have any preconceived notions. Come prepared. We're going to make characters all together. And without fail, everyone comes with a 3-page backstory. This is what I've decided is going to be.
Wait, yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, that just reminds me of when we started the Barovia campaign, the Curse of Strahd campaign, and me and our other friend Aaron came in with an idea. I was a fashion model, and he was my tailor, and then she fucking died. The first, she got one-shotted by a ghost, and it was okay, she has a sister, and she's the exact opposite of her. This is fun.
And that's true. You shouldn't have anything built up too much, but on the flip side of that, we should all expect as game masters that players are going to spend any of their free time probably thinking about, gosh, wouldn't it be great to play that paladin monk mix, which is, by the way, a terrible idea, but paladin monk mix that I've been dreaming of.
You can retweet Shade directly on his Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck finding it.
Shade, you surely have a paladin monk.
I actually don't. I do love multi-classing. I'm speaking from experience. Monks are not great to multi-class too much.
But couldn't you do a divine smite each punch of the...
Actually, no. According to Jeremy Crawford, your fists don't technically, unless that's changed, which I don't know. They go back and forth.
What if you had a holy set of brass knuckles?
That might allow it, yes.
The
but
knuckles become weapons at that point. Yeah. But they just did this in Critical Role last night. The barbarian tried to rage with this as fist. They do not count as weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
Isn't it just because it says weapon attack? 5e does have some really stupid bullshit. But we're not here to...
This is our takedown podcast.
That's right. We're going to
tweet us at Tabletopped on Twitter.
Fucking tweet Jeremy Crawford and burn his ass to the ground.
No, we obviously love it. That's why we all run in it, and we don't alter it too much, I would say.
Yeah, but
we're not here to talk about that.
No, but I was gonna say that actually this is bringing up a good point of if you're at a session 0, Shade is incapacitated. If you're at a session 0 and someone's like, hey, I really want to play somebody who's just meting out holy justice with a monk fist sort of thing, then you can be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can work that out, or bend the rules or whatever.
That's exactly, yeah.
Flavor-wise, it actually works really well, a monk and a paladin. Yeah. It's basically the same thing.
Holy warriors.
Yeah. The fuck, this game is stupid as shit. Why are they different classes?
And for no discernible reason, I've been wanting to play a fighter with a shield as a weapon for years.
Same, absolutely.
I mean, I do that in your game,
but
with Brooke.
Just homebrew it.
That's actually
Tavern Brawler.
So many things I can say. But so the thing I will say is, like you said, Nick, this is a great opportunity at session 0 to go, okay, well, you really want to do that silly monk paladin thing that doesn't technically work?
It's really not min-maxed? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that really doesn't work. Well, let's figure it out. Let's go ahead and say that fists are going to count for your divine smites, but if you want to do the shield, there's actually also rules in a lot of the play sets that, you know, you could sit down and go, okay, well, let's figure out how the shield works as a weapon, as a DM, or you could even just go, oh, that's an improvised weapon, and it's close enough to a bludgeoning weapon.
I got it. You just reflavor a longsword, but it gives you a +2 to AC. We did it.
That is.
We solved it, guys.
Make it a mace, give it the throne property, you're set.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Yeah, and
We got there.
another thing is like, so moving away from the like D&D, like one thing that I think that Powered by the Apocalypse systems do really well is that it kind of builds in a session 0 to the actual like running of a game, because it says, okay, you're all making your characters together. Now, how do you know each other? And you kind of decide as a group how you guys know each other beforehand, because I don't know about the rest of you, but in like D&D and some other campaigns that I've sort of run or been a part of, the hardest thing is when a new character is introduced or you're starting and everyone's new to each other, and it's like, and you're all traveling together and you better be ready to die for each other or whatever. So
You got 5 minutes to develop lifelong bonds.
Exactly, yeah.
Throw yourself in the way of danger for these folks.
Yeah, so I always like to try to establish some sort of like, hey, you know each other from around town, or you know each other in this way, or you've at least seen this person before, instead of just like, hey, this gnome has come out of fucking nowhere and now you're just like always together.
Gnomeware.
Yeah, you're definitely talking about Mallory, I guess.
Mallory came in with 3 people or 2 people attached to him story-wise, so it was just like a new faction has been introduced to this story.
I like the social like web where, you know, all the players don't have to know each other, but it's like, you know them, they know this person.
Yeah.
And kind of loop it all around where like there's 2 characters that know everyone else in some way. And then you just make the problem everybody's.
Yeah, that just made me think of, because you just started Nick's Urban Shadows campaign, and when me and Shade were in Nick's Monster of the Week game, that was also, I don't know, that's just like a thing I'm definitely going to steal going forward. It's such a good mechanic to be part of a session 0, to just be like, yeah, actually you all just know each other.
Yeah. Like
there's no reason not to, and it just makes it more interesting. And
Urban Shadows does a really interesting mechanic, and it's built in, but I might just steal it for any other thing, where you basically have to take debts out on each other, or owe debts, or like I have a debt from you. And mechanically in the game that means something, but I just love the idea that like, hey, you owe this person, whether they helped you out in like a time past, or like they, you know, kept a secret from you from the law when you like almost got arrested or whatever. And so now like you feel obliged to this person in some way. I think that that's like a really cool idea in any setting, because then they don't have to like each other. They don't even have to really know each other that well, but they can feel indebted to each other, and then that's a way to keep them together in the campaign.
I have liked that as a sort of storytelling mechanic in the game to pull the party together, but as an individual, I've hated nothing more than owing people things out of the gate. It has driven me crazy.
you are born in debt. You will die in debt.
I mean, it is good to put your players in something they're probably familiar with, and as 30-somethings in the United States, you know, let's very
financial
comforter.
debt.
Yeah.
Don't fucking dox me like that.
Sorry. So
Here's debt, but it's fantasy, so it's fun now.
exactly. I mean, good fantasy is built out of something you know.
I make fun of you, but I just started a game with Nick at work where I literally put them in a situation where they have to pay 15 gold in taxes to the
Every
city.
2 weeks, which is
Every
a
2 weeks.
crazy amount of money.
They are incredibly poor and have immediately turned to crime.
They're in Fantasy Australia and the like very distant past.
There's another game that I'm in where one of the characters like wanted to play a bard with a violin, and the DM was like, yeah, you kind of can't afford that. And she was like, can I just take on a bunch of debt? And it's like, yeah, you now have a bunch of fucking debt. Like you're like 900 gold in the hole or something like that. It's okay. The whole town got destroyed, so he just kind of hand waved it away. It's really nice of him, actually.
I mean that's a way to start like a lawful evil campaign of like, how do you get rid of your debt?
Awful. But so in addition to setting up this chance of how do your players know each other, or maybe how do they just meet, Do you all envision a session 0 as something where you're actually playing, or are you discussing things?
I view it as more of a discussion because I don't want to write anything until I know the characters who are going to be there, because I want to write stuff for them, and that's impossible to do if you don't know who it is you're writing for yet.
Yeah, that's true. It's a negotiation. You have to go in ready to win and ready to walk away.
I have to say, like, this is just like an interesting difference between the three of you and me, where I think I've told Shade in the past that I write a long arc that is not unchanging, but sort of is the general direction of a campaign. And then everything inside of it, I adapt session by session, which is a very inefficient way to work. But it also allows me to not have to pre-write a whole lot. It allows me to really work with what the characters are interested in, want to give, and then I'll go that way.
That's how we all work anyway. Here's what
So I just dodged the prep of like a 10-page document. Awesome.
Yeah, because if you don't remember, we started a game where a height was going to take you all on a treasure hunt, and again, you've gone to a life of crime. I can't get you out of the city to save my own life.
What is this?
It's the Fantasy Australia one. Well, if you charge us 15 gold every 2 weeks, we have to find immediate money. And the way we had to do that was take over a rival gang immediately.
And this is why session zeros are so important. This could have been discussed, but we went right into it, and now we both have different ideas.
Yeah, I remember we like robbed a Best Buy in in Monster of the Week. Me and Jackie just went and robbed the Best Buy, and that was very that was like, yeah, Nick definitely hasn't come up with this idea. Like, we're just gonna go rob this Best Buy.
But it also allowed me to be like, yeah, you like walk by the back room as you guys were like sneaking to try to find the safe or whatever, and you like overheard that the workers were trying to unionize, and you were like, fuck this guy, this manager sucks. And so it just like gave you like this whole other arc on why you were at this Best Buy. It was very fun.
It was really nice of you to like let us get away with it. Like, morally speaking, it's like, oh yeah, fuck this manager, like let's just let's screw him over. This is great, let's fuck with his numbers.
So I was going to say, for me, I do like a little bit of a mix. At the very least, if you're not really rolling dice for, skill checks and the like, I do like a little bit of an RP in my session 0, but not always. You kind of have to just feel how things are going at that moment. But all of this is a great example on how session 0 is not going to prepare the GF for what's going to happen in the campaign at all.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I was considering if I ever ran a D&D campaign again, and like there's a setting called the Humblewood, I think, that I've been interested in running for folks.
Is that the one with adorable animals?
Yes, it is. It's like a Redwall tour thing. Yeah. And I sort of wanted everyone to bring in a level 0 character. So basically make your character up until when you choose a class. So you choose like your background and your skills and all that kind of stuff, but you haven't chosen a class. And you can choose like, a background, profession, and maybe some backstory. And then the first session 0 would be us all coming together, talking through stuff and how everyone knew each other, and then running through what happened to start the adventure. Like, why are you guys all together? Well, this thing has happened. And you guys, as session 0 or level 0 folks, have to survive it. And then that's why you become a level 1 adventurer, which is already a little bit better than like the average person.
Yes, the trope after the bar fight session 1 is the calamity session 1.
That makes me think of, so I'm trying to put together like a game. I don't really know what I'm going to do with it yet, but like I was starting to come around to the idea of just doing what you were saying, like starting as like level 0 commoners and just having a background. But you're all teenage nuns who were just sent to a convent because you were, I don't know, practicing witchcraft or something. And then, like, when you get to your first level, you all have to be warlocks, but you can take different packs. It's just flavored to be the same deity. Because, there's a lot of versatility within the warlock class. So that's kind of my idea.
Oh, this is with your Oops All Warlocks.
Yeah, this was my Oops All Warlocks idea. Because I just thought it'd be really fun, because, like, I think Warlock's a really fun class in 5e. Yeah. But yeah, like that's another expectation to set is like, hey, by the way, you're all going to play warlocks. Just have the warlock class, like have your pact in mind ahead of time. That's another thing. Like the amount of limitations that you place, I think maybe can be like straining to some players. But I think, there's a lot of like when you're putting constraints on players, I think it helps people like think outside the box. Like I think a lot of like the best art is born out of that. It's like born out of like restrictions.
Yeah, and that's always good for like a campaign 2 or 3 after you've gotten to know like a group. But those like high restriction campaigns are really hard when you're going in with like a complete group of randos.
Right.
Yeah, actually, this is something that I wanted to talk to you about because you've done this, and also Franco, you have done this recently as a player. But like when you walk into a completely random group of folks, because I know that some people play TTRPGs but don't have the luxury of having like a large group that they want to play together with or who are interested, so they kind of have to go to a game store or whatever. What is your thoughts when in that kind of situation?
I just want to put a caveat. I would never put a group of complete strangers into that warlock scenario. I'm just going to torture you group with it. It's like, yes, only warlocks for you, not for strangers. Strangers can have choices.
Well, when I've played at a game shop or an event where I was running as a volunteer, I like to stick with like classic choices. Tropes are tropes for a reason because they work and they're familiar enough that everyone can put a spin on it, but you're working from some sort of commonality. Which is why I will always play a dwarven cleric if I am starting with an entirely group of strangers. I know the dwarfs, I know what the cleric can do, and I know no one else is going to be playing a healer at any given time.
So it like cements you as a part of the group immediately. That's like we need to keep this person alive no matter what.
As Leslie Jordan is wont to say, when you walk into a room, you have to find your light, and
you want to be that light.
I want to be the light. I want to be the light for everyone.
I've actually had this situation as well from a GM perspective, and a lot of times I find that where we have a comfort with our familiar group, if it is a group that you just don't know, or maybe there's maybe you are the connective tissue for a number of people that are coming to this. Like Daniel said, tropes are very good, but I would say this is a great time to not do too much in the way of negotiating. Earlier we had said, okay, hey, we were using that little monk paladin thing, so I want my fists to go ahead and work for those divine smites. Nah, don't do that kind of stuff, because that's going to confuse the player down the road.
Gotcha.
You can do it. It's just it can lead to some things. I had from personal experience, I had a player who really wanted to rework. They hadn't played 5e before. They were familiar with 3.5, and they saw the Eldritch Knight, and they really just wanted to rework everything. And we sat down and we did that, and it worked out great. But later on, it became apparent, you know what, this isn't really working for us as a group,
right?
And then we go ahead and negotiate that again, but there's always those kind of growing pains.
Yeah, that's a really good point of like, as a DM, if you are an experienced DM, I would encourage a session 0 to make sure, if you're with a bunch of randos, that you use this moment to try to facilitate what's best for a group dynamic instead of for individuals. Yeah. Because I think that is, really important, because like everyone's going to come in with the thing that they've been wanting to play D&D for a while with, and then that might not always work. And if you're a less experienced DM, maybe come in and just be like, hey guys, like be really out there and be like, hey, this is like my first time running a game, and I would just appreciate if we didn't do any off break. Yeah, stupid shit. Yeah, exactly.
Bullshit at the door.
I love reworking a class for my own flavor. Frank will attest that I've been playing an anime character in his Greek setting for some time now.
Wait, who?
Abraham.
Abraham's an anime character?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, the fact that you haven't noticed makes me feel a lot better about my choices and blending him into your setting.
Yeah, it's a Greco-Roman classical setting, and his name is Abraham Washington, and when he told me that name, I was just like... I couldn't handle it. He's an anime character?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Every single spell has been based off of some anime move.
Yeah, but that's just fun. I thought that was just like, oh yeah, it's like everything's anime. Anime is everything. Everything is anime.
Oh god, I was gonna say something else, but like my AD&D mind dissociated there for like a hot second.
You were talking about reflavoring classes.
AD&D. It's special. Again, I reworked it to
Thaco.
fit my setting. Fuck. Oh, so those heavy rewrites when you want to take a class and just like make it very unique. I have found works really great if you're doing like a one shot or a limited run.
Yeah, that's a really
but
good
if you
point.
want to do like an ongoing, like level 1 through 20, that is not going to work out because you are definitely going to run into balancing issues.
Yeah.
And I remember in one campaign I was running for a mixture of this group that I'm currently running for. We were in the same world on an island, and everyone got marked by this like raw magic.
Right.
I thought it'd be really great, and I gave them all like superpowers, and it was way too much. So I had to take it all away later, and they're gonna hate you more for that than for anything else you ever do to them.
I think with the session 0 in particular, and an experienced group or group you don't know, not setting that up is helpful, and just it's all about setting those expectations. But we mentioned going into game shops, and there is kind of an advantage if you're going to run a game at a game shop. There may not be a session 0 because you may be doing something like Adventures League,
Right.
or Adventure League rather, and that is all about drop-in play.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily get that, but sometimes a game shop may have a session 0, and you should just prepare to make it a fun experience as possible, and not cater to power fantasy.
Yeah, there's it's interesting because some of the systems I've run in the past that are built to only be one session long, like Misspent Youth is one that I like. And then also one that I really want to run is 10 Candles also does this. It actually like kind of takes the power away from the individual to create characters and stuff, which is really interesting, where it basically distributes it amongst the group. And like in 10 Candles, you write down like a positive and a negative trait, and then you pass them to your right and left so that when you get yours, you have a random positive and a random negative to build a character from. And sort of like a group thing sets in so that you all have like an interesting group made team. Another thing like with Misspent Youth and even a little bit in Monster of the Week, they kind of suggest that before the game you have like a quick conversation of what kind of game you want to run. Misspent Youth does a rating system like PG or G all the way to like R or like a hard R kind of thing. And I think that is also really useful to establish like boundaries and expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's for me the thing you really want to focus on most, because it's all well and good if you want to run a campaign that is going to be swashbuckling. You've had this in your mind for a long time, but if your group really just doesn't give two shits about pirates,
yeah, right,
no one's going to have fun with that. Probably. I mean, you might pull a miracle, but don't take that risk. Talk to them and say, hey, I want to run a campaign about pirates. Are you interested? And let them choose. And that's where session 0 is going to come in. And maybe they know that in advance of session 0. But maybe that's something you can kind of test the boundaries of.
Yeah, I think we did that just recently as this current campaign is wrapping up. I sent out a poll like, hey, here's some ideas that I want to run that I've been writing.
Right.
What would the group most like to play that I can focus actually creating? And now we've got a concept for campaign 5. I think this group is going to be running the 5th campaign.
I don't know how you're counting it, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's randomly. I'm just assigning numbers to things.
Campaigns run by you or campaigns run within the group?
Campaigns run by me for this group.
Oh, okay. So this is like a personal thing. Mine doesn't count. This is calling you out section. This is the calling you out section of the podcast.
I feel like I'm called out. I hear you, Franco. I see you, and I'll count you in as the campaigns for this overall group that has, we've never named our like actual D&D club.
No, it's fine. I want my own numbering thing.
God damn it!
I did really like the voting thing, actually. That's what I wanted to say before I was goofing on you. I do.
I also will say though that like I had an experience recently when I was making our current Urban Shadows campaign where I was like, yeah, what are you guys interested in? And the response that I got was, yeah, like Weird West, but like Space Odyssey, and maybe like really focused on like community, but also exploration is awesome. And I was like, holy shit, what do I do? And so I basically just picked one that I was like, yeah, I could do this. And I just took a couple of things and did that with it.
You went the wrong direction. That was your problem. You didn't start out with ideas. You just asked for a wide berth of things. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I guess that's
I
true.
do a lot of stuff.
I guess that's true where you like come in with some parameters of what you are interested in running as well, so that you can like going. I guess it's like the flip side of what you were saying, Shade, where it's like. Tell them if you have a really strong idea, like, hey, I want to do this. Are people interested? But also, if that's not the case, then you can say like, hey, this is kind of what I'm interested in running. What are you guys interested in? We can meet in the middle kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And that's absolutely the negotiation, because again, you want to do that swashbuckling campaign. If you don't tell them about it and you just say build your characters, session 0 is just going to be about building characters. I'll give you a few things about the world, and you say, yeah, naval stuff is pretty heavy in this world. They're just going to think that they're going to be in a city with docks. They're not going to think that they're going to necessarily go out and be pirates or something unless you straight up tell them. If you tell them and they go, oh, well, I was kind of hoping to do, not a pirate.
I wanted to be the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I want to be. Yeah, exactly. I want to be the Coast Guard. Then you know that, and you can figure out how to marry those ideas.
Yeah, never give people more than 3 choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
This is something I'm bad at.
Yeah, Daniel gave us like 10 choices, but I had a great time choosing from them. So I narrowed it down to
Was
3.
there that many choices?
I feel like it was a few.
I think it was 5.
Actually, no. Maybe I'm thinking.
It's
thinking
Ico.
I'm thinking of Shade giving us 10 choices for Icosahedrodome, which is a concept antithetical to D&D, but it's very fun.
I mean,
But
it
in
is
a good way.
Yeah, yeah. But that is something that I do tend to do, because I also like to give ideas out to groups and say, these are some things I'm interested in running, and I want them to narrow it down. And then our session 0 for this little thing, because we know what it is just going over the rules and identifying which one we're going to be doing. But everyone wants to play all of them, and it's kind of hard to narrow it down. So don't scattershot too much, you know.
Another thing that is less of a thing with a group that you're really comfortable with, but still I would say important, is to, especially if you're a player going into just like a random environment, I would say like ask the DM, or if you are a GM, like give people time to say what they are super not interested in. If they're like, this is my hard out, like I'm not interested in X, then you like definitely have to make it, even though it's kind of a weird conversation, you have to make space for it. And as a player, you should definitely ask to make it happen, because if you are a player in a random group and you realize that you're like, hey, I'm like super not into this, and then everyone else is like, oh, well, come on, then you're like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
Well, and that goes even further, because session 0 is a really good place to remind everyone. It's not only just about setting the story, but also setting the boundaries that people are comfortable with.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to play a grimdark, but does anyone, maybe you don't really want to get too grim with it. Or maybe you are arachnophobic. And so telling everyone, make sure everyone knows that at the table, so that, hey, I'm not going to, as a druid, just turn into a spider every 5 seconds, or as a DM, throw a bunch of spiders at you all the time.
It's like, I hope Greg doesn't actually have a worm phobia.
I mean, I think he does, but
he does a little bit.
I also think that he's kind of into it.
I think he plays it up for the drama of
I think
the
he does
moment.
play it up. He does a really good job of making it seem like he hates worms, but not so much that he's never like come to me privately and been like, hey Franco, actually could you stop putting worms in the campaign? Right. And like now I'm just like, I love putting worms in the campaign because it gets a great reaction out of Greg.
Right. And I mean, then that's a good point. I mean, there is a kind of a middle ground for that, but there are some things like I've been in campaigns where rape happens.
Yeah.
I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a world with that. And if there had been a appropriate session 0, we could have set that boundary to begin with.
Yeah, that like having a light system is like what I tend to drift towards, and having like a green, yellow, and red is like kind of category where it's like I'm totally cool with this as green, and then like Greg and Worms is probably a yellow, and then like sexual assault, all that kind of stuff is like a hard red. Like I, as a GM, this means I'm stopping the campaign and being like, guys, what the fuck are you guys like? What is happening?
Yeah, just because things exist doesn't mean you want to role play through.
Yeah, exactly.
Escapism. But yeah, I did the same thing in our last like session 0. I said, what is something that say yes, something that you want in the campaign? What is your soft no that you would deal with if it was there, but let's not focus on it? And then what is everyone's hard no? Like, does not need to show up at all.
Right.
But a green light system would be better than your soft no. So I'm going to steal that. Which is that's also a D&D trope. Yeah. Steal other people's ideas.
Exactly.
And market them as your own.
Not the marketing as your... Okay, well, you can... You can, you're what is it? The fucking great artist steal, good artist copy, great artist steal. Yeah. Frank said that. Wait, I just doxed myself. Can you bleep out my name? That would be really funny. Yeah, that'd be really fucking funny, actually, if you bleeped out my name.
Yeah, we can bleep that.
Just because of the last name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that like storytelling wise, getting away from like specific systems and stuff, I think a session 0 is super important to like get it's kind of like I always feel like I'm a little bit of a spy to like talk to my players, and then they're like, yeah, this is my character, and I'm like, oh cool, what excites you about this character? And then they'll just have like people love to talk about what they've made, and then you can just start like mining that for the stuff that's like, oh, I can use this, I can use this, I can use this.
Yeah, I remember because Daniel was like, yeah, my teacher was like, my elder teacher or whatever was like, he was murdered and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, great. The main quest giver of the campaign, who is secretly a bad guy, put the hit out on your your master.
You leaned into the anime and you didn't even know it, Franco.
Oh yeah, I totally did. My whole life is anime. That's the shirt.
Everything is anime.
My whole life, anime.
All right.
When I found out that was what was happening, I cannot tell you how angry I was.
He was so mad. I was like, I gave you gold. I handed you like role-playing gold.
I enjoyed it. Like, I don't think it's a bad idea, but I, as Abraham, was so mad that I've been working for this guy for a solid year, trying to get clues from him because he was giving me information about who killed my master, and then it was him the whole time. You guys, you don't even know how in-game angry I was, or the chaos I have thrown into this game since then for my revenge plot.
Since then or before then?
The whole time.
The whole time you've been playing the game.
Look, it was accidental chaos before, intentional chaos since.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw some air quotes on accidental. I've played, you can't fool us, we've all played with you in various senses, and we know what kind of characters you run.
I mean, accidental, yeah, since we're just gonna roast Daniel now.
Well, yeah, but after we roast Daniel, we have to throw some stones at the glass house that Nick lives in.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
This is the thing. I love a chaotic character. I play them half of the time. The thing about it is that you cannot be precious or defensive about it. I'm super chaotic, and I will do everything I can to make this interesting for me.
And you know what? That's actually a great thing for a session 0 too. Find out how a session 0 is a great time, especially if you don't already know the group, to just learn what they're doing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Just before I get lumped in with that whole chaos thing, like making this interesting for me is not my take on it. I'm going to do anything I can.
Daniel, you're running a demonic cult behind everyone's back in one of the games. What do you want us to say?
Like I just said, I want to move the story forward in interesting directions.
Okay, well
I'm
then...
I'm trying to entertain myself. I'm trying to entertain the group.
That is a lie. You know it is, because all of those things are kept secret from the group.
What thing is the secret that you just put me on blast? That's how I'm going.
I hate to say it, but we've done that in future episodes as well.
We've a peek behind the tabletop curtain is that we've recorded a few episodes.
You're the worst secret keeper.
Yeah, literally every episode we've already recorded at this point has been us putting Daniel on blast.
with love, with love.
I did not know what I was signing up for. I like the attention, so I'm going to just roll with it.
No, but that's like a super good point though, Shade, because I was thinking too, like there are obviously different people who are interested in these games. Like I'm a super role-playing heavy person. That's the thing that I like to do. I am less interested in combat, but I also play in a group with somebody who's like all in on combat, and that's the thing that they love. So you also have to get the temperature on that so you can mix and match and make sure that everyone's having a good time for, you know, the majority of the time kind of thing.
And also something to remember about Session Zero, which we've more or less touched on already, but it's not the be all end all. It's a great starting point. It's the key to the door that will lead to your game, but it's not going to set everything in stone.
Yeah, I thought during the Lakewood Session Zero that there were some things that were definitely going to happen. I had some characters made, and I was like, oh, this is going to be so important. We never talked to those people or ever explored that theme, and I was just like, well, okay. It was still super fun, but it's just like had a great story arc. But yeah, I think Shade's right. Build something that's loose enough that you can operate within flexibly.
The Session Zero house rules and the DM's notes are living documents.
Yes.
They are going to evolve every time they interact with the players.
And you can have a session, you know, air quotes here, 0 later on in the campaign too, because it's good to take a little pause, maybe between arcs, and just go, hey, how's everyone doing? Do we want to change a few things, direction?
Yeah, in our Canaries game, we actually did a 6-year time skip in which we did like a soft reset. And a lot of people wanted to try new characters because the game had been going on for, I think, 2 years. Mm-hmm. Everyone was like ready, like some people wanted to keep their stuff. People wanted to come into the game from other groups. So we did like a Session 0
again
in the middle of the campaign. So it's sort of like, all right, you guys have been this skilled for a while. You've done great. And like I said before, the second great trope of D&D is the Calamity. And I was like, all right, the structure of the country collapsed in the past 6 years.
Yeah, and there's also a really fun thing that like a mid-game Session 0 reset kind of thing where you just throw another system into it. Like we kind of did that with Argot. We've done it with Canaries because the Year of War bit was sort of like a different. It just wasn't D&D. It was just a different system that we had sort of made or whatever.
Oh right. Yeah.
And like I think we've all done it in some way.
All right, when we did one-on-one session.
Yeah, right.
I do not encourage that. Having experimented with just trying to play a game with everyone going off on their own for a while, you will get confused. It will be terrible to try to get everyone's schedules to line up where you can talk to them at the same time.
I had a great time doing one-on-one session with Nick. I think that worked really well.
Yeah, I think extended, prolonged one-on-one sessions, I'm definitely with you. Although there are systems out there, and even 5e, you can do just quote, 2-player, which is to say DM and player games. But for a Session 0s, it is sometimes rewarding to have a Session 0 and then do a quick little thing with 1 or 2 of the players for one episode or session.
Right.
Yeah, I will say that part of the Summer of War mid-campaign inside of the larger campaign was trying to wrangle 7 individuals.
Yeah, it was a large group.
On each going through their own like little quest over a 10-week period, doing it in real time. So like all 7 people had to have a one-on-one every week for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah, I think part of it too was like I didn't understand like part of the. Sorry, you're also like looking at me because I'm like guilty. like the 3 of us are like part of the guilty party of like how this this didn't turn out. This is very difficult.
It did not turn out great, but you have to be able to experiment, and you got to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah, I found it difficult because there were interactions with like there was overlap with other characters at the same time as well.
But what had happened was people were being like, "Oh, this is hard. I need to get someone else involved in this." I was like, well, that's exactly the antithesis of what I was going for.
Well, it's a team game. I feel like it's like very...
It was really hard to take a team and like, all right, now you're all individuals. Because everyone's like, I'm not doing this on my own. Fuck you. That's a giant. I'm pulling in everyone I know.
Right. I'm not going to fight this giant on my own. I'm going to call Greg's character and let's go fight an obelisk.
So another thing that I think is important for a Session 0 is to... like tips and tricks wise, to make it so that you end with an intro into a campaign so that people can get excited. And then what I really love to do, and then we can go around with sort of to end it off to like specific things that we've found a lot of success with. I really love, Franco got me hooked on this website called Nuclino, where you can build your own wikis. And one thing that I absolutely love, and I think that is a really good way to harness the really motivated energy at the top of a campaign from your players, is to like let everyone be part of this wiki and like fill out their characters. And like a lot of the games I play are like shared worlds, and I give them a lot of power to create what they want within the world, like on the fly, and then I just sort of leave it up to them to add to the wiki as a living document as well, so people have ownership over the world and are able to constantly be reading each other's stuff so that they can feel like, oh, I forgot that, this is interesting to know about the character. And that's something I like to do on my session zeros as a little tip from me, so we can go to the next person.
And just a little pro tip: if you're doing that, be sure to like stay in contact with your players, because some of them will have that window open for days at a time, planning to get to writing their own thing and never remembering, or
We
never,
got you there, Daniel.
having the energy to do it.
So one of my favorite things to do with the session zero is, we said this thing about individual sessions. I really enjoy ending it with a quick little roundtable of the meeting. It doesn't always work. I like to get a little bit of play into every session zero if I can.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming and listening to Tabletopp's episode 1, session 0. No, Frank, you can't have the microphone. You said, oh, that's actually that's a good point. Franco, what's Tabletop socials?
Oh, tabletop. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. You fucked me up, man. Shit.
You're lining
you
him
can
up.
follow us at tabletop@gmail.com.
Nick from the future here. It is actually tabletoppedpodcast@gmail.com.
Follow us on Twitter at Tabletopped. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok.
We're not on those.
We're on those same handles. We're on Vine still. We brought Vine back. Running.
Okay, yeah, you can go to Tabletopped on Twitter if you want to talk to us. You can also send questions, DM us. Totally want to start doing sort of like an audience interactive stuff. We can answer your questions on the pod. And I think it's tabletopped@gmail.com, but it might be Tabletop Podcast. I'll put it in the
This is us
post.
finding out we don't have a social media manager amongst the group.
Well, that's very true. I, do the best I can.
We did not have a session 0 for this podcast.
All right, so now we can just talk about our normal socials. Franco, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, don't follow me.
Franco, you're impossible.
No, come back. I'm not out there yet.
All right, well, this has gone way off the rails right at the end. Does anyone have anything to say? Anyone want to plug anything before we end this?
I have a D&D Instagram and Twitter at Coronor D&D, or just at Coronor. I post very rarely on both of those, but now that I plugged it on a podcast, I guess I'm going to do that some more.
Ooh, a rarely updated Twitter account?
Love
yes,
that.
please.
Love that rare tweet.
That's KORRENOR D&D.
Also, Daniel's kind of getting stuff rolling on sort of a DM for hire sort of thing. So if you're interested in running a group, but you don't have a DM, why don't you send a message to that
To
Twitter?
the tabletopped@gmail.
Okay, or that.
There. I don't, again, rarely check. So go to the one 4 eyes are off.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for hanging out with us for episode of 1. Oh my God, this is
Episode 0. The whole thing was 0.
yeah, I guess so. This is gonna be a great time. We're gonna update every 2 weeks. Next week we'll do something cool. I think it's probably building your own campaign setting. Bye. Bye. Hey everyone, it's Nick again, just coming out to say thank you so much for listening to our first episode of Tabletopped. Please give us a subscribe so you can get all of our updates. We have another episode coming out in just 2 weeks with Daniel talking about how to build your own homebrew campaign setting. It's a really great conversation, and I really want you to hear it, so please give us a like and a follow. You can also send any questions you have to tabletopkedpodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Twitter @Tabletopped. Thank you so much again for just listening to our first episode, and we're going to have so many more conversations coming, so please hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.